have to tell you that I am quite disappointed that we did not have the chance to talk about this issue in committee. This is really an important issue, members, and it's an issue that we are well aware of. It has to do with the discipline policies that are adopted by districts today and how inconsistent they are, and more problematic than that, how these actual policies are impacting children of color and Native children. This policy, members, is a very simple policy. It just says that the districts should have policies and practices that are alternatives to removing students from the classroom and dismissing students from class. That's all it is. And I'm going to read to you some very alarming statistics, members. And again, I just would like to hear why you wouldn't support a policy like this. Students of color comprise 31% of the student population in the state of Minnesota. Yet, they receive 66% of all suspensions and expulsions. 66% of the children that are suspended or expelled from schools in the state of Minnesota happen to be African American, Native American, and immigrant children. We need to address this issue. Students with disabilities comprise 14% of the population, of the student population in the state of Minnesota, yet they receive 43% of all suspensions and expulsions. We know, members, that students who are absent from the classroom are less likely to graduate and achieve success. Members, we received a report from the Human Rights Commissioner last year that put all of these numbers in context. And they concluded after this study that these disparities constitute a violation of the Minnesota Human Rights Act because they deny students of color and Native American students and students with disabilities educational access, and they negatively impact academic achievement. We have evidence today, members, recorded in our discipline incident reporting system that indicates that the disciplinary measures adopted in our schools actually target disproportionately children of color. And we know that American Indian students were 10 times more likely to be suspended or expelled than white children. African American students were 8 times more likely to be suspended or expelled than white children. Students of color were twice more likely to be suspended or expelled. Students with disabilities were twice more likely to be suspended or expelled. Members, 55% of all suspensions in the state of Minnesota were the result of a subjective judgment made by school officials. And we are doing nothing in this bill to address this issue. As a matter of fact, members, this was one of the proposals brought to us by the Walz-Flanagan administration as one of their top priorities, because they know of the results of the study that was put together by the Human Rights Department. It is irresponsible not to address this issue. We have no reason not to have this policy in place. The language that I'm offering in the A7 amendment will address the issue. Thank you, Mr. President. I am quite surprised, Senator Nelson, with your response. You know quite well that this language has been vetted, and actually has been vetted by attorneys. that is the reason the governor incorporated this recommendation. The people working on this investigation with the Human Rights Department are actually attorneys. And also, members, I want to tell you this. Not only I am very surprised, but so disappointed to read this letter from individuals who are supposed to be considered the experts in here, who lobby in our committee every day, and who represent associations that are so important to our education system, of course. The Association of Secondary School Principals is incredibly important. But I have to tell you this, members. We constantly receive letters similar to this, objecting to make changes when we need to make changes to address disparities in our schools. Well, the bill doesn't have enough resources, is not clear. I have to tell you, members, I believe that because these individuals are constantly guarding the current system, is that we do have today the disparities that exist in the state of Minnesota, which are the worst disparities in the nation. I believe that that is the reason. So for the people who sign on to this letter, I want you to reflect, and I want you to think about the length of time that you have served in your position. Many of you have been there for the last 20, 40, 30 years. The lobbyists have been the same people. And we have not addressed these disparities because we're constantly on guard, trying to prevent policy that address these issues from moving forward. That's what we've done in the state of Minnesota. And that's why we have the disparities that exist in Minnesota today. Because we have people guarding the current policy, the status quo, that prevents us from adopting policies that are creative and responsible. So we need to stop that. I want us to stop that. And I am going to call today for a roll call on this issue, because I want you to remember that this is not a new issue, that suspensions have been happening, that African American children, Native children, and now children with disabilities and immigrant children are being suspended and denied an opportunity to obtain quality education, and that is why we have the disparities that we have. We need to stop that. We have an opportunity to do this. This is language that has been reviewed by many people who agree with this, many superintendents, teachers, experts who agree with this language, and I encourage a green vote on this issue. Thank you, members. The actual answer, Senator, to that question is yes. As appalling as it may sound, the answer is yes. And there is a report, and this is the challenge, members. We're just not reading these reports. We have a report that was presented to us with actual cases and numbers of suspensions, exact same cases, where children of different race and ethnicity and background were actually treated differently. A black boy is more likely to be suspended in the same scenario. That's statistically proven. And I have to tell you, members, I actually experienced this issue with my own child, who engaged in a fight in the school, and guess who got suspended? The other child got suspended, and he was an African-American boy. It happened in my own district, where there is a specific policy that prohibits that. It happened. So I have to tell you, members, that we do have to read the policies. And I am going to also take this opportunity, Mr. President, and members, to respond to Senator Clausen's remarks with respect to at what cost. So at what cost do we continue to implement policies that have neglected and ignored these children for so many years? At what cost, Senator? We have the worst disparities in the nation. That is the cost that our communities are paying. I really don't care about the cost of an administrator and what they have to do in order to put good policies in place. I don't. And what is more problematic, members, is how you interpret this amendment that I'm trying to put in place. Why are you so worried about this amendment? The policy is so simple. Please read it. It's line 114. It says non-exclusionary disciplinary policies and practices that require school officials to intervene, redirect, support the pupil's behavior before removing the student. It just says before. It doesn't say don't remove the student. It doesn't prohibit the removal of a student. It just doesn't do that. It just says try non-exclusionary disciplinary policies before you remove a child. It's just so simple. We're not asking for a significant change. We just are asking for a responsible action, taking responsible actions before you suspend a child. That's all we're asking for with this amendment. Thank you.